Olive was a well-educated woman and a skilled dressmaker. As a young girl, she moved to Port Washington with her siblings, parents, and mother's Ingersoll relatives from Oswego County in New York. Olive's ancestors came to New England as part of the Puritan migrations in the mid-17th centuries. Her grandparents moved to New York, where they were successful farmers. Olive's father, Waite, continued to farm in Port Washington, but eventually changed careers and became a pioneer of Wisconsin's cheese industry. In the late 1860s, he even moved his family from Port Washington to Fort Atkinson so he and his son Clayton could perfect their cheese-making technique. After about 2 years, they moved back to Ozaukee County. Olive grew up in Port Washington. Her siblings moved to other parts of the state, but Olive stayed in town. In 1877, when she was 22 years old, she attended the Port Washington Teachers Institute, along with William Foster, Louise Heidkamp, Emile Pors, Ida Teed, Charles Tousley, Mary Vale, and other young men and women from the community's prominent families. Olive chose to stop teaching and started a dressmaking business instead. She worked as a dressmaker for a decade, creating and designing gowns for women in the community. In 1888, Olive's father wrote a letter to a local judge and asked that she be committed for mental health issues. She was sent to the Northern Asylum in 1889. She remained there for 7 years. In 1896, Olive was transferred to the Manitowoc County Asylum. A change in oversight at the State Board of Control had determined that too many individuals spent years in the state hospital without a change in condition, and that treatment for chronic issues was outside the Northern Hospital's mandate. Soon after her transfer, Olive wrote a letter to Judge Edgert. In an articulate, reasoned, and measured fashion, she argued that she did not feel that she belonged in the asylum, that her original commitment was based on flawed information, and that she wanted to come home to Port Washington to resume her life. Judge Edgert received a second letter, this one from the superintendent of the Manitowoc Asylum, who also said that Olive was ill, wanted to return home, and in his opinion did not belong at the asylum. Olive secured her release in the fall of 1896. She moved back to Port Washington and resumed her work as a dressmaker. While she was at the Manitowoc Asylum, she'd worked as a seamstress, paying her own upkeep and saving so that she could restart her business upon her release. Olive died 4 years later in 1900 of a pulmonary hemorrhage, likely caused by the tuberculosis she contracted while at the Northern Asylum. She is buried in Union Cemetery in the Ingersoll and Fox family plot.